During the Final Fantasy 25th Anniversary Celebration presentation, we were treated to a feast of exciting news, but the cherry on top was of course our first look at Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, which was revealed to be titled Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, with a release date of late 2023 to early 2024. The official reveal teaser trailer was short and sweet, depicting only 2 scenes really, but the fandom has speculation for days, so let's break it down. Spoiler warning for the OG Final Fantasy VII, Crisis Core, Before Crisis, Remake, and probably other parts of the compilation. We open with a glimpse of Zack Fair, helping Cloud on the approach to Midgar soon after what was supposed to be Zack's last stand, as featured in Crisis Core and the original Final Fantasy VII. As most of you will know, Zack should be dead at this point. We saw him survive at the ending of Remake, but with the introduction of the terrier dog version of the stamp artwork on the crisp packet, there were several questions regarding where or when this was actually taking place. We also saw Zack at the end of the Yuffie DLC intermission, entering the church in Sector 5, but again, this scene prompted far more questions than it did answers. Once again, the creators are very keen for us to see that Zack is alive somewhere. This is now the 3rd time they've shown us this, and as we go into Part 2, Rebirth, they are once again keen for Zack to be forefront of our minds. We get a top-down view from the sky, complete with what appears to be live stream particles, or perhaps the last traces of those sparkles that fell over Midgar and the surrounding area at the end of Remake after the Whispers were defeated, and a single white feather. This scene is incredibly reminiscent of Zack's death scene in Crisis Core, despite the fact Zack clearly doesn't die here. After the rain has stopped in Crisis Core, Zack's mentor, Angeal, descends through the clouds as several white feathers fall onto Zack. Zack then takes Angeal's hand, the implication being that Angeal is guiding Zack into the afterlife or the life stream in some way. We then see Cloud making his way alone towards the gates of Midgar there. We understand that throughout Remake, Sephiroth was connected to the black feathers, but Angeal is the only character ever to be shown as having white ones. It's interesting then that we are being treated to Crisis Core Reunion, which is going to be released around a year before Rebirth, which will be playable across multiple consoles, giving everybody a chance to know who Angeal is and to know Zack's story before we play the events of Rebirth. As the camera pans down, Aerith says, "What we've done, that's set in stone. The past is forever. But the future, even if it has been written, can be changed. So focus on the future, not the past." While these words do echo the similar sentiment that we've already heard from Aerith, they also show a level of uncertainty, as she described the future as a blank page in Remake. Now it seems she's sort of second-guessing herself, in that she speculates the future may have already been written. In the Japanese version, however, she does say something slightly different. Sadness and anger are what makes us strong, but it will also change us. Don't think about the past, but the future instead. And here, she does seem more confident about what she's saying. We get a glimpse of Meteor entering Gaia's atmosphere, which is directly from the glitch in the Shinra VR theatre presentation cutscene in Remake that the party sees immediately after Sephiroth is seen by Palmer wandering the halls of Shinra HQ. Then we see Cloud taking a stroll with Sephiroth in what appears to be the path between Nibelheim and Mount Nibel. We know from the original game that when the party arrives in Calm, Cloud recounts his very inaccurate version of the Nibelheim incident to the others. And this prompts a sequence where you briefly play a flashback sequence with Sephiroth at your side. It feels what we're seeing here, is an extended version of this flashback sequence. This is clearly what they would like us to believe, however, because there are some discrepancies here, in that Cloud is wearing the wrong outfit. During the sequence, he should be wearing the traditional soldier uniform, because he's actually telling Zack's story. It's only Cloud that ever wears the single shoulder pad with the bolts, and Cloud only wears this after arriving at Midgar, after Zack's last stand. Here, he should have the two plain shoulder armour pieces, and we see he is wearing exactly that when Zack and Cloud are heading to Midgar towards the end of the trailer, and in Remake, in the flashback with his mother. So this isn't a detail that the creators have simply neglected. We could wildly speculate here about potential story changes. Maybe Cloud turns to the dark side and teams up with Sephiroth. Maybe Sephiroth sets aside his genocidal ways and decides to work with the party. And this isn't a flashback at all, but the present. It could also be that this is not finished gameplay and this development footage will be subject to change, or that Cloud's memory of this event is so skewed that he even remembers himself wearing the wrong clothes. Cloud explains, presumably to the party in Calm, that he, Sephiroth, wants to finish what he started. He wants to reclaim his birthright and rule over the planet with Jenova at his side. In the Japanese, Cloud says that Sephiroth wants to continue his plan from that day. He wants to take the planet and, along with Jenova, become its ruler. When he says that day, he of course means the Nibelheim incident. We get a flash of Jenova and a close-up of Sephiroth's eyes. Now this is a memory of Zack's, which was merged with Cloud's memories from the Nibelheim incident. We know this because when Sephiroth unveils Jenova inside the Nibelheim reactor, Zack was present for that and never Cloud. As Cloud and Sephiroth continue to walk towards Mount Nibel, Cloud speaks again. "I saw you lying there. I figured it was too late." In Japanese, "I thought it was too late that day." He's saying this to Tifa, referring to when she ran after Sephiroth inside the Nibelheim reactor 5 years ago after Sephiroth had killed her father. Sephiroth gravely wounded her when she confronted him, and therefore her attempt at revenge was extremely short-lived. Again, this is Zack's memory of this event and not Cloud's. In the Nibelheim incident in both the original Final Fantasy VII and in Crisis Core, when Zack enters the reactor, he sees Tifa on the ground and then runs straight past her to confront Sephiroth himself. This would account for Tifa's confusion and the fact that their versions of these events do not match up. She says, "Wait, what are you implying? That I died? That I'm some kind of imposter?" In Japanese, "So are you doubting me? Are you implying as if someone else was there instead?" In the original game, Tifa doesn't really say much during the Calm flashback. She is very keen to allow Cloud to tell his version of events, and she's clearly disquieted by what he says, but she doesn't question him. It would therefore seem that this might change somewhat in Rebirth, that she will take him to task and pull him up on some of the details and make further inquiries instead of just staying quiet. She may not question him right away, however. In the English, she uses the word imposter. Now, when they arrive at Nibelheim, they are greeted by a recreated town filled with Shinra-paid actors, aka imposters. So this could well be a later conversation between Tifa and Cloud after she has had some time to reflect upon what he said in Calm. The on-screen card asks us what is fact and what is fiction. Obviously, this will be thematically tied to Cloud's version of the Nibelheim incident and the fact Tifa remembers things very differently. But this is also a question for the entire trilogy and questions we have regarding the changes that are happening. We get a flash of that scene, which Cloud saw when he met Aerith for the second time in the church in Remake. And then we finish up back with Zack and Cloud as they approach Midgar together. Cloud says, "You were here with me 5 years ago. Where are you?" In Japanese, he says, "We came here together 5 years ago." But this is a question and not a statement. He then says, "Zack, where are you?" This confirms that Cloud is indeed thinking about Zack and wondering what happened to him, and this does seem strange because in the original game Cloud didn't mention Zack or even think about Zack at all during the calm flashback and way beyond that point, and to say "here with me" suggests that Cloud is at Nibelheim when he says this. This statement could therefore be from much further along in the game when the party are actually at Nibelheim. Perhaps in the Shinra mansion, as they explore the room with the Mako tanks where Cloud and Zack were held. This possibly hints as to how far the party will travel during the events of Rebirth, as Nibelheim itself is much farther on in the game. It would bring us neatly in a circle for this game to begin with the Nibelheim flashback and end in Nibelheim itself. If this is the case, however, this means we will not be seeing Cid Highwind until part 3, and the party will have only just picked up Vincent Valentine, so perhaps he will join the party as a non-playable character for the last chapter of Rebirth in a similar way Red 13 did towards the end of Remake. We may of course move past Nibelheim in Rebirth onto Rocket Town and beyond, but I do think this indicates we will at least get as far as Nibelheim in the second instalment of this trilogy. As we know, trailers like this can often be edited sneakily, and it could be that these two statements spoken by Cloud don't actually belong together. The first part, "You were here with me 5 years ago," is probably spoken to Zack, but it could well be something that he says instead to Tifa. And since she doesn't remember Cloud being at Nibelheim 5 years ago, this is going to be a problem for her. This was briefly touched upon in Remake when he gives her the flower and says, well, it has been 5 years, to which she expresses confusion. It's also worth mentioning that Cloud could also be saying, "You were here with me 5 years ago," to Sephiroth. Just a little food for thought. Aerith then says, "I'm trying so hard to find you." In Japanese, "I'm looking for you." Since we have just heard Cloud inquiring as to Zack's fate, this leads us to believe that Aerith is also speaking about Zack, and she could well be. It feels as though Aerith knows on some level that Zack survived as a result of the changes that the party made while entering the Singularity and defeating the Whispers, so it would make sense that she is trying to find him. Perhaps this is Zack reading one of the many letters that Aerith wrote to him while he was being held captive in the Shinra mansion. Towards the end of Crisis Core, Sung gives Zack these letters. In OG Final Fantasy VII, the order of locations after Midgar is Calm, the Chocobo Farm, the Mithril Mines, optional Fort Condor, Junon, the cargo ship, Costa del Sol, Corel, and then the Gold Saucer. Given we now know this is a trilogy and there are many more locations to visit after this, it's certain that we will get to the Gold Saucer, and probably beyond, in Rebirth, which means this could be Aerith speaking to Cloud during the Gold Saucer date scene. The date scene doesn't happen, however, the first time that the party goes to the Gold Saucer. It happens when they return, and this is after Cosmo Canyon, Nibelheim, and Rocket Town, so maybe we will be drinking some goddamn tea after all. Here, in the original, Aerith talks to Cloud about Zack and notes the similarities between him and Cloud. There she says, "Cloud, I'm searching for you. I want to meet you," which is a very similar dialogue to the trailer here. We finish with Zack saying, "Sorry, I feel like I failed you." In Japanese, "I'm sorry, I couldn't do anything." This could be Zack reflecting on the letters from Aerith as mentioned, or just him thinking about her and not necessarily speaking to her in person. This could also be Zack speaking to Cloud upon their return to Midgar, especially if Cloud is still in a bad way from the Mako poisoning, which is most likely to be the case. There are some in the fandom that feel that this is Cloud speaking, however, and not Zack. Personally, I hear Zack. The way he says sorry sounds just like his VA from the church scene at the end of intermission. In terms of context, Cloud could just as easily be saying these words though, perhaps to Tifa when they reflect on the Nibelheim incident, or maybe even to Aerith after her death, which could be a hint at exactly how far the party is going to travel during Rebirth. The heavy focus on Zack throughout this trailer may indicate that there will be playable sections in the game where we play as Zack, perhaps in different locations to the main party, and maybe even on an entirely different timeline. I have so much to say regarding predictions for the future of Final Fantasy VII, and I would also love to do more deep dives on this channel, so if you enjoyed this video, I'd love for you to subscribe for future content. I'm also on Twitter at FinallyFighting if you want to drop me a follow. Have a great day, folks.